I'm Sarah Gonzalez. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Glenn, what was the top story?
I think it has to be the Google tape that has been smuggled out.
Okay.
A bad Star Trek parody.
So,
I will get the polling geeks to unite and tell you that the House and Senate forecasts are out, the initial ones, and we'll look at those.
okay, Pat.
Our continuing slide to socialism.
Oh, goody. Yay. All right, before we get
Slides
into
are
all
fun.
of that, yes, they
are.
are.
They're
They
fun.
are.
They're fun.
Good point. This is the news and why it matters. So. Before we get into that, I want to thank our TV and podcast sponsor, My Patriot Supply. Glenn, I know that you have worked with them for a while. I want to know what kind of foods do they offer? They just have a wide variety of all
Everything.
different, really.
Yeah, everything. I mean, so good. Now, Pat, you and I would never do this, okay? But we've heard rumor that if, a man's wife happens to be out of town and the man happens to be just very lazy, that they've gone into the food storage and eaten it all weekend long.
So that's an emergency. It's for emergency
exactly
preparedness.
right. I'm
and
too
that's an
lazy
emergency.
to do anything. It's really good food. All really, really good food. Top quality and easy. I mean, if you're in the Carolinas, this is the time that. I mean, imagine when I went down to Houston and we saw the people from the hurricane. You're leaving your house. You have to now pay for hotel rooms and breakfast, lunch, and dinner for your kids. How does the average person afford that?
Yeah, and so this week they are offering a special price. It's $75 for a food kit that contains 92 servings of breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Wow.
That's 75
awesome.
bucks. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So you can go to preparewithnews.com. And again, that's $75. It lasts like 25 years in storage.
Yeah, it's really good.
So it's
Good stuff.
a really great investment.
Yep.
All right, the Google tape.
All right, do we have a little bit of the Google tape to play? I mean, first of all, can we just show it, just show the picture of it or just start it and then pause for a second? I don't know which one you
Let's face
have.
it, most
Okay, stop.
people here.
I mean, that looks like a drunk McCoy from Star Trek. And then the other Google guy gets next to him, and he's wearing a Captain Kirk outfit. And I don't know when they started doing parodies of Star Trek, but that's all I can think of when I listen to this. So I've dismissed it in my mind as a joke already, but it's not. Go ahead and play this.
are pretty upset and pretty sad for because of the election. But anyway, on a more serious note, myself as an immigrant and a refugee, I certainly find this election deeply offensive, and I know many of you do too. And I think it's a very stressful time. And it conflicts with many of our values. I think it's a good time to reflect on that.
McCoy's depressed.
Yeah, he is, and Kirk is is just as bad. So this goes on. I mean, I saw an edit from Breitbart of 10 minutes, but this was their their annual meeting. This was smuggled out by somebody who was there. Now, if you actually listen to what they're saying, it is so disturbing because remember, they're a platform. They're a platform. They are not a content provider. They are simply a platform. And the most powerful platform the world has seen ever. When it comes to information, they will edit and be the gatekeeper of all information. That's Google. To hear them talk about how they can't, this just won't stand, and they didn't see this coming, and they're so depressed. We have had those kinds of discussions, not in a corporate setting, but we've had those discussions after elections. But we are opinion people. We are paid for our opinions.
They're supposedly not biased.
Correct. Now look at that, and you tell me if they think that injustice was as deep as they say it was, how are they not skewing things? Mm-hmm. They're hypocrites. If they don't skew things after that, they're absolute hypocrites.
The other thing that kind of jumped out in this to me was, do you have no employees who voted for Trump? If you do, you've just totally disregarded them. You've just treated them like crap. If you don't, are you making sure that you don't have conservatives or Republicans in your company? I mean, something's weird about that.
So did you see the woman who was on stage talking about that?
No.
I think she was from HR, I'm not sure, and she said, we're just this is so horrible, and listen, there's so many of us now that want to move to Canada, and don't worry about it. I mean, I'm being serious. We do move people out of country, so we will talk to you about that. I mean, that's how serious it was. And then and then she said, and I have gotten a couple of notes from people who voted for Donald Trump, and they have said that they found this a very hostile environment. They're
kidding? Of course it is.
Right. They're uncomfortable letting anyone know who they are or what they voted for. And I want to assure you that, we're all on the same page, and we all want what's right. We just don't understand.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Great.
Wow.
I mean, it's a gulag for conservatives.
Because having people who really were depressed about Donald Trump being elected working for you just means you have a company with people working for you, right? Like half the country was like that at that time. But that's what's interesting to me about it. It's not just the president or a bunch of people saying really bad things about Donald Trump. You could get that anywhere, any company, any McDonald's you walked into the day after the election, you could have received that. This, however, is almost completely exclusively massive depression by every single speaker.
Whole culture of the company.
But look at that. Look at this. It was that way at CNN.
It wasn't. I mean, but still, I can pull out.
Me.
But I can pull out conservatives that we worked with that were there and had hesitations about things CNN did and were rooting for Republicans in elections. It wasn't like that. I mean, that was unanimity, right? Like there was not. It was completely everybody. And they acted as if everybody agreed with that.
Talk to the people at Friends of Abe. That's why no one on the set ever says anything if you're a conservative, because it's that attitude.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, with seeing that and realizing that basically everybody who works there, at least they think everybody who works there would be depressed by that, I actually think Google's done a good job balancing it. I mean, it's still the most useful search engine, right? Like, it's still the one I go to every single time and can get lots of conservative information through it. The fact that it's not completely banned all voices, I'm actually impressed by after seeing that. I mean,
that's sad.
Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, it shouldn't. Again, this is when you feel there's a great instinct that I think people have, which is I'm doing something, and with my life, I want to do something positive. I want to make a difference in the other things that I care about. You work at here, and you want to take issues that you care about and make them into a big deal. That's great when you work here, because this is what we do. We talk about issues. When you work at a place that is not supposed to be emphasizing these things, that is actually a negative instinct. Like the instinct to be able to go out there and say, I want to make the world different, so therefore X, Y, Z, I'm going to manipulate these things so that people change. It's a bad instinct. I mean, really, when you come up with the best technology, make it easy for people to find the things that they want. Provide a service so that they can search down the things in their life that they believe are important. Don't try to influence it, because when you get into that world, you wind up going down really negative roads.
Yeah, I find it extremely disturbing, because I have had off-record conversations with people who are very concerned about AI, and everyone always tells me the same thing. No. We have Google. Remember, whoever is the first to discover and create ASI or AGI rules the world. If it's run by a group of people that are thinking like this, people are afraid of the United States government or the Chinese or the Russians having ASI, because they know if our government has it, they're going to listen to everything, they'll control everything, they can manipulate everything, and our government is the best of all the governments. If it's the NSA, I don't want the NSA having that. I don't want China, I don't want to have Russia. But I don't want Google having it either, because they have a very different point of view than I do.
Someone's going to get it, right? And by the way, ASI, AGI,
artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, which means it's a computer that can play chess and Jeopardy, and do general things. Mm-hmm. That quickly will probably turn into ASI, artificial superintelligence, which is will make us be like a fly in a kitchen on a plane.
Then there's ASDI, Artificial Super Doppler Intelligence,
Yes.
which is the
3,000.
scariest of all.
Right.
Stu, go ahead and be a polling nerd. Go for
Okay,
it.
it's an exciting time of year. They're actually starting to come out with House and Senate projections based on the polls. A lot of people, before we even get into this, it's always important to note, people are like, well, they got the polls wrong in 2016. I get that. It's an understandable thing. However, they were predicting one of the things they were predicting was the national polls, which they pretty much nailed. It was less than a point off. When
You mean the popular vote?
When it came to the popular vote, which is the thing that you're predicting, right? The fact that some of the states, they had some of the states wrong, but 538 was the one, it's kind of the most famous, I guess, prediction site. They were also the most positive for Trump's chances, and that's something that gets lost in the fact that every single polling prediction place got it wrong. But they were the ones that gave him the best chance. I've used this before, and only Pat will understand this, of course. I don't know, maybe Sarah will understand it, but Ryan Sandberg, Hall of Famer, he's a Hall of Famer because he got a lot of hits, right? 538 gave Donald Trump the same chance of winning as Ryan Sandberg getting a hit. The exact same. So, I mean, it wasn't like they said he had no chance. He had the biggest chance of any. 538 gave him the biggest chance of any of these polling firms. So anyway, they released their House and Senate projections, and it's interesting to see it kind of come down. We're going to be starting with House, or we're starting with Senate first. This is the. I can't tell. It doesn't really seem to be labeled.
House and Senate.
That is
House and Senate.
Okay. All right.
You want to switch to another one? Because
Okay.
you're doing well so far.
Okay. Well, I don't. All I can tell you is it's about 30% chance that I don't know what this graphic is, but we can lose that. But there's about 30%
The next
chance
graphic.
Republicans would win the Senate, and about an 80% chance Democrats will take the House. So 30% for Democrats to win the Senate, 80% for them to win the House, give or take. So the House looks like at this point, and these things change, obviously. An event could change this in a big way, either way. But, if things stayed the same, generally speaking, until we go to the election, good chance Democrats take the House, good chance Republicans hold on to the Senate. There are reasons, obviously, and one of the big reasons why this is important is subpoena power. If Democrats get either one of these things, they can just start subpoenaing documents and going after them really hardcore. Now, you want the truth about these things, but Democrats, of course, will use this for political purposes and start investigations that are nonsensical, and they will.
As opposed to the ones that are running now?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, one of the things was it Isa? Somebody got in a little bit of trouble because he, a Republican who was saying like, look, we got to make sure the House stays this way, or the Democrats will, because we're the only ones holding the Democrats back from going after Trump on everything. And they're like, well, they're trying to protect Trump. Well, I mean, yes, they probably are. Obviously, the same party. They operate in the same fashion.
Give me a crime. And you can investigate all you want.
Right, but they will subpoena every document. They will leak every embarrassing thing. They will do everything they can.
It's just, this is obscene.
It almost definitely will impeach him. If they think it's politically advantageous, they will impeach the president.
And if they
of the United
have
States.
the Senate, they could conceivably.
They could.
67.
That one's
You
going to
gotta get to
67 votes. So that one's going to be
8,
tough.
isn't it?
I thought it was 67, but maybe it's 68.
It's high 60s.
Yeah, that one's going to be tough. Yeah. You'd have to get something to win over, 20 Democrats. So that would be Republicans, excuse me. So that one's really tough. Bottom line, though, is the most likely scenario is you will see a split, and it will be almost impossible for Republicans to pass anything.
All you have to do, though, is you don't actually have to impeach him. You just have to drag him through the mud, drag America through the mud for the next 2 years and make it impossible for anything to get done. Mm-hmm. And Americans will be so tired of it that if there's a fresh face that pops up, you have a chance, because people will be like, I just can't do this anymore. We got to get going.
Quick note before we go to break, you said it's going to be impossible for Republicans to get things done, and that's assuming that they were actually doing anything in the first place, and they're not. Maybe they deserve it.
Amen.
Back in a minute.
President Beto. That's what we need. It's going to be President Beto.
I'm going to quote verbatim. Pat has a really super thing to talk about, but before
really super good thing.
a really super good thing to
Don't
talk
mind to sell
about.
it.
So be prepared. But before we get into that,
So smart.
you have the best words. I want to thank our TV and podcast sponsor, iTarget Pro, which apparently there was this big demonstration that was
weren't
done.
here?
I wasn't here.
It is the greatest thing. Do
you love it?
Don't
I'm mad.
shoot
I
all the
didn't.
time. Do the time.
Awesome, though.
I don't,
I
and I
love
don't
it.
get to the range.
Okay, so
I need this.
Right. I don't go to the range. I go up to the ranch, and so 2 times a year for 2 weeks, we just shoot every day, sometimes several times a day. And so we have a challenge with all of the members of the family. But I don't have time, and I don't want to drive all the way to the range when I'm at home. What is it called? iTarget?
iTarget Pro, yeah.
So you put a little thing in like a bullet.
It's a laser.
Yeah, you use your gun.
That's what's so incredible.
It's
to me.
incredible.
And there's an app that goes with it
And
that
it shows you
how you're shooting.
So you're sitting in the living room and you're dry firing, which
Crazy.
is the best thing you can do. Dry firing, pulling the trigger, making sure that it's smooth and everything else. Just dry firing is the best thing you can do. That's what you're doing with this, except you're actually hitting a target.
What I love about that is bullets aren't going through furniture or your walls.
So you love that.
Oh, you
Good
did it at
safety
home
tip.
in the
I
living
like
room
that.
anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I used to shoot bullets through my walls all the time. And then I thought, wait, what if there's a human on the other side of that wall?
Right.
Oh, I
And
didn't
one
think of
that I know, since my family lives here, that's probably not a good idea.
iTarget Pro was literally a lifesaver in your household.
Yes.
So you can go to itargetpro.com and you can save it 10% right now with the offer code NEWS. That's itargetpro.com.
Great service.
The slow descent into democratic socialism.
Yeah, it's not that slow anymore, I think I'm finding. I mean, if it's possible in Texas where a guy... Now, Beto O'Rourke doesn't claim to be a socialist, but everything he's proposing is what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is proposing. She's a democratic socialist. He's essentially a socialist. We've got a socialist in the lead for governor right now in Florida. What is that, our 4th most populous state? 3rd or 4th, somewhere in there? So you could be electing a socialist here. We've already elected one. Well, we're about to elect one, but she's going to win. In New York, you've got an admitted socialist running for governor in Florida. This is sweeping our nation, and it's unbelievable to me.
What's unbelievable is it's happening without an economic crisis.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, we kind of have the opposite right now. We've got pretty darn good economic conditions.
We hit an economic crisis, which I think is coming. But I always do. We hit an economic crisis. We will abandon the Constitution in a heartbeat.
So somehow, we have convinced the American people that socialism is the right economic engine for a country that's not broken economically. So part of that is because I believe in Texas, people believe that Beto O'Rourke is Hispanic, and that's propping up his numbers because Hispanics are turning to him. There was an article a couple of weeks ago that said Beto's rise is providing hope for Hispanics. Why? Because he's an Irish-American socialist? That's weird. So anyway, last night he was on Stephen Colbert. He explained how he got his Hispanic nickname.
Now, I understand that Beto's not your real name. What is your real name?
I was born Robert Francis O'Rourke, but like many people born Robert or Albert or Gilberto in El Paso, my nickname is Beto. So not uncommon for your mailman to be named Beto or to go to
he's
Beto's
Hispanic.
Tacos or for your member of Congress to be named Beto O'Rourke.
Beto's Tacos.
Unbelievable.
Cultural appropriation,
Right?
first of all.
Well,
why does it have to be tacos?
Yes, and his name itself is cultural appropriation. So
Did you hear the Hispanic emphasis?
Gilberto.
All of a sudden, he became Hispanic when he was
He did the Nicaragua thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Nicaragua, man. That's my gig. Stop it. Anyway, he says that it's common for a Robert or Roberto in El Paso to adopt a Beto. Yeah, if they're Hispanic, not a white guy. Where did that come from? Why? Why would you call a guy named Bob in El Paso Beto, why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense.
Imagine like Lou Dobbs calling himself Lupe. Like, all right, well, yeah, I guess some people could be commonly called
Well,
Lupe, but not a lot
I drove through El Paso one time, and so I just stuck.
More
stuck.
Lupe Dobbs right around the corner. It's just so fraudulent, and how
It is.
How
But it's working.
Oh, it's totally working. I mean,
It's
first of
working.
all, he's within now 3 points on average in the polls. He has a chance of winning. By the way, that is the
real, honest to God Hispanic
in the race.
is perceived as a white guy.
Yep. It just doesn't matter.
So
I mean,
bad.
Postmodernism, right? I mean, you've been talking about it so much. No facts
How
actually
you identify
matter.
and how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at this. There's 10 toss-up races in the Senate. I mean, this is an embarrassing performance already. I mean, this is set up so well for Republicans to pick up a bunch of seats. I think there's 10 seats that are up for in states that Trump won. That could be pickups for Republicans, and they're not going to
Really?
win. They'll be lucky if they win one of them. There's 10 seats in the middle that are
Could have
toss-up races.
61, 62.
You might have been
Oh
able to
my
get past the field. You had an outside shot. Probably 56, 57 was a realistic upside, but still,
But
you had a
56 or
chance.
57.
Yeah. There's no reason they couldn't have been there. I mean, states
Instead,
like West
they're in danger
Virginia,
of losing the
right.
Senate majority.
I mean,
And whose fault is that? Theirs.
Theirs.
It's not
Yeah,
Donald Trump.
definitely.
As much as you want to blame that on Donald Trump,
That's not his fault.
it's not his fault. They don't.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's certainly partially Trump.
It
I
is
mean,
partially.
But and I don't. Look, he doesn't control these things. But I mean, I don't think Cruz has done anything wrong here. He's had his voting record is fine for Texas. I mean, but I mean, you look at this and you see there's about 10 toss-up races that will decide the Senate. Republicans need to win 3 of them, and right now they are favored in 3 of them. The most secure one they have is Ted Cruz. The
Oh,
most
wow.
secure. The other ones are
3.2%
3.2%
is the most secure.
The other one's like 0.6%, and the other one's like 1.4 or something like that. It is.
Congratulations.
Golly,
They
is
could
the
easily-
country turning to socialism?
It seems like it.
Well, and I mean, in Texas, of all places, is where it gets really confusing that they're latching onto it. But you did point out Beto is advocating for a lot of democratic socialist policies, but he's not calling himself that.
No, he's not. And I guess that tricks
That's
people.
why, right. I think that's why, because I would love to see the numbers of people who would say that they would reject democratic socialism and then see the numbers of people who would approve of Beto and see how those
Right. It'd be interesting.
compare.
But he wants universal health care. Right. He wants a universal education. He wants universal guaranteed job income. I don't know about the housing part of that, but he wants almost all of what Ocasio-Cortez is saying.
Yeah, and they just released at CNN. They do every couple of weeks a breakdown of the top 10 for 2020 on the Democratic side. Who's going to be? So 1, Elizabeth Warren, socialist, right? 2, Kamala Harris. Socialist, totally fair, same policies as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. 3 was Biden. Then I think it was 4 was Gillibrand. 5 was, again, Gillibrand also universal health care, all those same policies. Then Sanders, avowed socialist. And then Cory Booker, 6, who's a socialist. Beto was at 10. He's already on the list. He hasn't even won a friggin' Senate yet.
If he wins, the Senate,
he'll
will
be
run
the front
2020.
If he wins, he'll be the front runner, I think, for
Look how
2020.
extreme that party has become. And yet it's always them calling Republicans extreme.
It's incredible.
Of course.
Unbelievable.
Back in a minute.
Well, look how they're all for racism. Look how they're all for racism.
Glenn's new book comes out Tuesday, and you have a yay!
Oh, you got 2 out of 3. That's
Yeah,
pretty good.
that's good.
And you have a live
Live book signing tonight,
Yes.
8 o'clock Eastern time. You just go to livesigning.com/Beck.
And it's on the internet, right?
It is on the
interwebs.
the superhighway.
Oh, wow.
So people put their book up to the screen and
I
you just
sign it. No.
sign it?
You all you have to do
Technology
is you
is
go there
crazy
now,
these days.
you register, tell me, how many books you want, et cetera, and I sign them during the hour. You can also ask questions at that time. Stu's going to be joining me to
Why?
make my life, to pick the worst questions, to pick the most uncomfortable questions.
Make Glenn squirm on television.
Oh,
That's
okay.
kind of my
So
job.
That's tonight live
I approve of that.
at livesigning.com/Beck.
So, are you going to take questions from the people who are actually getting the books?
Oh yeah, I'm,
The same people.
or so he will tell me.
Or I'll be lying to make it as uncomfortable as possible. One of the two is going to happen.
Ask him really, really, really private, uncomfortable questions.
Oh, then I will answer him because I can answer and make it more uncomfortable than you ask.
See you in overtime.